Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Superhuman Entrepreneur. I'm so glad you guys have decided to take some time out of your busy day and spend some time with me and my special guest. Now, this guest is super special because his name is Matt, and I'm very biased to that name. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it's just there's something special around that name. But there's also something very special about him in that I want you to hear his part today. Something that drew me into Matt Coulter's world was the fact that he obtained a lot, but even more than that, he gave up 10 times more than what he had. And that's just so rare nowadays to hear someone doing that. And it was a crazy story. I found out about him through this interview. I listened to the interview and I just said, hey, I want everyone in my sphere of influence to hear from this guy and what he's doing. Matt co-founded and operated a global cancer nonprofit for 10 years before starting a platform to help others start nonprofits, the first being the Beautiful Foundation, which he's the president of. He's an avid surfer and really just a man on a mission to change lives. I can't wait for you to hear about his organization, Beautiful. I guarantee you, most of you have never heard about what he is doing and the impact he's making in many people's lives around the world. So without further ado, Matt Coulter, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I'm with you on the name. So we already got common ground, so that's great.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I want to start, Matt, with just your journey to where you are. You know, being an entrepreneur, I know that you have gone through the peaks and gone through the valleys and things like that. But your story is a little bit more fascinating in that you came into success very young. Talk about a little bit about what brought you from, you know, there to now where you are today.
Yeah. For me, I think anytime I talk about this stuff, I have to give knowledge to whoever's listening and to your audience that you have. For me, I have to give a shout out to my parents. You know, I got my mom and my dad and my stepmom, you know, have been incredibly influential in my life from the very, very get go. And I tell people this all the time. Like when it comes to parents, like I hit the lottery, and it was one of those things that I think I had a lot of great things instilled in me at a real early age because of my parents, and then even my grandparents were really influential in my life, and I spent a lot of time with them in my early years. And so I think for me, giving some praise to my parents is always a good thing. I know I kind of gave them a little bit of hell when I was younger, but yeah, they were such a huge part of me. And I think, you know, I looked at my grandfather and then my dad, and, you know, even still, like what's today, Thursday or something, Friday, you know, we're going to get together, probably watching football. The first person I call is my dad. And so I feel super lucky to be able to have that in my life. And so to kind of piggyback into your question, my biggest thing is I've always been a person that's self-motivated. I know a lot of people say that all the time, but it really is something that's true to me. I've never needed a push. It's always just kind of been there. And so I always looked at what my grandfather owned a restaurant for 40 years. And then my dad was really successful athlete, and then kind of in the business world, real successful. And so I think any boy, any man, young man, if you're lucky enough to have those relationships, you look at them and you go, okay, like how can I take what they've given me and all the advantages and all the opportunities they've given me, and how can I kind of stand on their shoulders and then take that to the next level? And so I think for me, that's where a lot of my motivation and my inspiration and then the pressure that I put on myself comes from that. Yeah. Because like I said, I feel like, you know, I hit the lottery with my parents. So like if I don't do something incredibly substantial, then what a waste. It's bad. That's the crazy conversations that go on in my head. And it's really, you know, I think about that daily. So, you know, that's a big thing for me. And, you know, I was having a conversation with a young man yesterday, this kid that I'm mentoring, maybe he's mentoring me. It's kind of an interesting situation.
That's cool you say that.
Young kid. Yeah, really young, like bright kid. He's a freshman in college, and we got connected through a couple different people. And we were just talking about the idea of college and what that looks like now, in opposed to when I kind of was in school, and it was this idea that if you went to school and you kind of put in your time and you came out, you're going to have all these ripe opportunities. And not that isn't the case now. I just think the maybe the percentage of jobs has dropped so much. And now obviously being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things that I lean on from my education, but there's a lot of things that I lean on just from real life. And so we were having that conversation about, okay, is college really worth it now? And what do you want to do? And if you don't have it figured out. And so for me, I feel like I was one of those last generations. I'm 37.
Yeah.
When I came out of college, I really did have a lot of opportunity to kind of do a multitude of different things. And so, coming out of school, I really was, I was able to take advantage of kind of just the basic opportunities that I had in front of me. And that kind of led me down a path that was kind of in my dad's kind of professional world. And it really kind of got me started on this trajectory at a real young age that was, looking back on it now, so incredibly important for me to kind of experience the things that I did at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's interesting because we're both the same age, by the way. When were you born?
Okay. 81, May 16th, 1981.
May 16th. Okay. I was born October 1st, 1981. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You got a birthday coming up.
I do, man. I do. But, it's very interesting that you talk about that, because I think now more than ever, the landscape is so ripe for people to understand that what you create can truly impact the world. And it's not that you have to fall into this cookie cutter mentality of that I need to get out of school, get a job, work 9 to 5, and just continue to
have a kid,
grind,
get
right?
a dog, have a wife.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I have so many of my friends 100%. Are in that space, and incredible. Yes. But it's definitely not my path.
Yeah, right. It does. It's definitely a special type of mindset, willing to go through challenges, take some hits on the chin, and be able to keep going. And then there's something beautiful about having structure and allowing someone else to pioneer. Because also there's definitely a downfall to being a pioneer as well. Like sometimes, you have to go through the mud for a very long time and get there and have the tenacity to do so. Something that really fascinated me. You said something very interesting in the interview that I listened to. And you said a lot of people chase the carrot until they're 62. And I'm grateful I had an experience at 24. And that just resounded with me so much, because so many people, in my family included, like I grew up in a family where, I grew up in a very Sicilian family. My grandfather came over to Ellis Island, started a bakery, grinded, chasing the American dream. And I feel like what you said, like that needs to be a title of a book or something. Like some people need to understand that only when you look back on your life will you truly understand that, or think about, was it truly worth it? Like, what was I after? What was I truly seeking by trying to be here, right? And you nailed it on the head. So speak to that. Like, what's going through your heart and mind when you say something like that?
And I think for me, it's, that carrot is different, or if you want to call it a carrot, it's different for every single person, right? And there's all these different levels of success, or, based on your experiences. And for me, it was a lot of that stuff, early on was a financial and was a material thing. And I was, able to get a job, right out of college, and, kind of always a hard worker, and knew I was going to be successful in whatever I was going to do, or I was going to kill myself trying. And I also had, from a timing standpoint, the economy was fantastic right around that time. And so I was able to really kind of step into something right out of the gate and start to experience this level of success. And to be honest with you, when I got out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of had like a general idea. And I think, you want to be what you're around. And, my dad had always been a businessman, and some of the other, kind of mentors that I had were businessmen. And so it was kind of my first entry step into that. And so I think everybody, whether you write stuff down, I write stuff, just everything in my head. It helps me, but I always would write goals down, and I remember writing not even a bunch, just like a handful of goals. And when I first got hired with this job, and the goals weren't even specific to the job. It was just kind of specific more to my lifestyle and to maybe some of the things that I wanted to achieve through this job. And I remember looking at those notes that I made like 18 months after I was into this job, and I had already kind of like scratched a couple off, and then another year and a half or so went by, and I was already in a position to where I felt like if I got to this point financially or from, material purchases, if I got there by 40, then like I'm on the right path. And
yeah,
I got a lot of that at like 22, at 23, 24.
Yeah.
And to have that experience to where, I mean, they'll kill me, and I always feel like a jerk when I say this, but like I was living in a nicer house than my parents when I was 23. And this is a crazy thing. And I don't even think I talked about it on that interview, but it goes in perfect line. I remember like I had just bought my house and I went over to my parents' house and I didn't even tell my parents. And I tell my parents pretty much everything. I'm kind of a square in that type of space. But I remember I was like, I had bought 2 houses already, maybe a house already. And I was going to buy kind of my dream house. And I went through the whole process, the escrow, the financing, all that stuff completely by myself. And I remember going over to my dad's house and I sat them down. And I was like, hey, I got to talk to you guys. And I remember the look in my dad's eyes, like, "Oh God, what did he do? Like, is he getting married? What's going on?" Right. And I remember telling him, I was like, "Hey, I bought a house. Like, get in my car. I want to go show it to you." And I drove him up and I showed him the house. And I just remember that experience. And then I remember having a housewarming party. And this is where I knew I was like, obviously didn't conceptualize this all in one moment, but looking back on it now, it's something that was so evident and I just didn't see it. And I remember like having all my friends, all my family, like a lot of my parents' friends and stuff up to my house for a housewarming party. And I live in Ventura, California, which is, maybe like an hour north of Los Angeles and like the city right under Santa Barbara. So
I've surfed the peak. I've surfed Mondo's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a lot of incredible waves. Part of the reason I still kind of call Ventura home base.
Yes.
But I drove my parents up and to my home, and it was on the hill, and it had this panoramic view of the ocean and the islands. And I just remember like having all these people over, and I'd been in the house probably maybe 4 or 5 months at that point. And by the time I really got furniture and then had this housewarming party, and I remember maybe like 2 or 3 weeks after that party, I was sitting and I had a hot tub, and I was sitting in a hot tub or, spa or whatever you want to call it, sitting in a spa by myself. It was like after work. And I was sitting there and I was just kind of like thinking about what was next or what I had done and just kind of some of the success I was having and just kind of having a reflective moment. And with the purchase of the house and then some of the cars that I had and all that stuff, it was a very temporary feeling of like, wow, this is crazy. And I have all this nice stuff. But I really started even going like, I got way more joy out of telling my parents what I had done and then taking them to the house and seeing them see the house.
Wow.
I got more joy out of that long term. Like I still remember that moment where I drove up and my dad was like, "You did what?" and seeing them be like, "Wow, you purchased this house and you're doing great." I got more joy out of that than I did of the actual house.
Wow.
And I was telling somebody another kid that I mentor, and we were talking about, and he had just got his kind of first like real car, and I was telling him like, enjoy it. Like I'm a car guy and love cars and stuff. But what I told him is I said, hey, you're going to figure out, maybe it's 6 weeks from now, maybe it's 6 months from now. At some point it's just a car and it just gets you from A to B.
Yeah.
And a lot of car people would probably kill me for saying that, but
Jay Leno just turned safe.
100%. But the thing that I wanted to tell him was I like nice stuff just like anybody else. But the biggest, most important thing that I can share with anybody is let that stuff be the byproduct. Don't let it be the focus, because if it's the focus, you're going to get it. And then you're going to go, now what?
Yeah.
And it's going to be on to the next thing, whether it's a nicer watch, a bigger house, a better car, or a better vacation or whatever. And it's amazing. And you should enjoy your hard work, and you should enjoy, treating yourself and doing those things and indulging yourself. Yeah. But the second that becomes the focus, you're going to get it and you're going to be chasing that satisfaction. And I think that's the thing that I've conceptualized over the last, let's call it, 13, 14 years, 15 years of of working is, how can I create a situation where I can do something that I want to do anyways and get paid for it?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is serious wisdom. Like, I feel like we could stop the show right there and just be like, okay, let that marinate. Like, let's let that marinate.
Yeah.
But it really is so true. I mean, I have friends who are in their 60s and 70s, you know, some of them living in Malibu, and they just start to think that way. And one of the things that they've always shared with me is that I wish I would have thought this way in my 20s and 30s. That's one thing that they say, if I could do something over again, I would be thinking this way, because our culture has this amazing way. You know, if you've been around the world and you've seen other cultures, our society has this amazing way of convincing us that chase as hard as you can, get the dollar bill, because then it's going to get you everything that you want. And what you just said right there is that there was a deep-seated something inside of you that told you, no, like that's not the end all be all. There's more here. And I feel like, I don't know, man, maybe you share this. Like, do you think that's naturally ingrained in you, or do you think that's something that's learned? Like, can everybody do that if they just attempt to? What do you think?
Well, I think for me, gosh, you know, obviously right now from a political standpoint, we're in such a tumultuous time, regardless of where you are on the scope of things. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we consume information at a more rapid pace than ever before in history, right?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's Snapchat or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or instant message or whatever you want to call it, we're literally like, I'm watching TV, I'm on my phone and like listening to music all at the same time. Like that's never happened before, right? You know, and it's only getting worse. And so I think, to go to your question, it's a combination of things, right? I always look at it and go, your political view, your religious view, your whatever, all these, you know, these things that we put on, your sexual preference, whatever it may be, right? I got some really good advice a long time ago. And it's like we're all so quick to look at people's opinions or the choices they make in those landscapes, right? But you can't give somebody a fair assessment. You can't make a fair judgment of somebody because you don't understand their circumstances, right? Every single person's circumstances are different, right?
Yeah.
And so to go to your question, I think it's a combination of things. I think A, it's something you can definitely be taught. B, I think if you have a particular type of circumstance, you can put yourself into a position to where you can really set yourself up to fail, because you look at something and you go, oh, this is what I've been told, this equals success, right? If I have a Maserati, if I live in this neighborhood, if I have these things, if I support this political candidate, then it gives me success or it gives me access or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
But for somebody else, that circumstance, that opinion, those choices they make are drawn off something that is completely different from you. So to give judgment to those spaces is almost foolish, because, you know, you can't put yourself in those shoes. Everybody says that, right? Like, think about, you know, other people's circumstances. It's one thing to think about it. It's another thing to actually live in that space.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, like, I got into this space because I looked at my dad, right? Really successful. My grandfather, very successful. But I always try to look at things and go, okay, what can I take that's positive from it? What can I take that's negative from it? And, you know, even to this day, my dad just wakes up and works like he's 67, right? Still like grinds, like that's just who he is, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many of those positive attributes that I take from him. And I know I don't work as hard as he does, but the thing that I've really taken from my dad is, you know, that generation, right? His parents were coming out of the Depression. He was taught, you know, you go get a job, you grind it out, you provide for your family, and then you're going to enjoy the fruits of your labor in retirement, right? And my dad is a testament to that. He's been with the same company for 40 years, you know, is at the top of the food chain, but works as hard as he did as if he just got hired. And so, but I think there's aspects of his job that he really enjoys, but I know there's aspects of his job that he can't stand. Mm-hmm. And I've always been real aware of that. And so I think for me is I always wanted to carve out a space that, like, I could wake up in the morning and do something that I would want to do even if I wasn't getting paid to do it. And that reality and that reality that I've created for myself came from looking at my dad and going, wow, look how hard he works. there's parts of it that he loves, but he also hates part of it. So how can I take that real positive part where he works so hard and he loves certain things of what he does and just eliminate the stuff that isn't, he isn't so excited about. Now, that's a real kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That's a real like ideal type of situation that you want to create. Maybe that's not real for everybody, but chasing that and putting yourself into that position, for me, is I get to wake up and do stuff that I really love and I care about, and I get to do it with people that I care about, and I get to do it for reasons that are my own. Yeah. And, when I was 23, 24 and kind of working in my dad's industry and, trying to carve out my own path, I felt myself going down that road because it's a very weird, it's weird to be one of your friends that's maybe making the most money and also being successful at a young age, especially in an industry that's a little bit older than you. That was kind of a weird experience. But the other thing for me was I could see myself going down this path and becoming my dad. Like, and there's parts of my life that I want to be my dad 100%. But then there's also parts of it from like a livelihood and a lifestyle standpoint where I went, wow, like I don't want that. And I was chasing the stuff that I was told that I needed by whoever, by society, by peers, by colleagues, by friends, whatever it was. I was chasing that stuff and I was buying things because I wanted a reaction or I wanted the satisfactions of showing people stuff. And at some point, wherever you're at in that, some people get the carrot, some people chase it forever. But even for me, look, and in the grand scheme of things, was I this incredibly, wealthy person? No. I mean, I look at it now and go, okay, I was kind of making money, but not really. When you're young, you're like, oh my God.
But man, when you're 23, man,
you're like, I'm rich. This is amazing.
Club, just make it rain.
Oh, like such, I think about stuff even still, and it just makes me cringe. Yes. But you got to go through it, right? You got to go through it. And so for me, like I tell, anybody I talk to or some of the young men that I mentor and stuff, I go, man, if you can make the money the byproduct and you can create a situation that you are waking up every day doing something that you're passionate about, that's the win. And then also being to push it even further is understanding that this life isn't about you. And I think that's maybe the most defining moment that I've ever had. And I mean, look, we share maybe a similar space in regards to, your livelihood is helping other people. I think that the more that you do that, the more that you understand that like those moments and those things that you create, like you can't buy that.
Right. Exactly. You really can't.
Like you save somebody's life. You help somebody get back to a better version of themselves. You can't buy it. You can't go to Vaughn's. You can't go to the mall. You can't go to Amazon Prime and buy that.
Right. You're exactly right.
You can buy pretty much anything else.
You can
and have it on your and have it on your doorstep 8 hours later.
Yeah.
But like those moments and those things, like you can't buy that.
Right.
And so I would way rather spend my time chasing those moments and creating those types of organizations that gives people those feelings. Yeah. To me, that's worth its weight in gold.
Hey there, superhuman. Dr. Matt here, interrupting this incredible show, and I don't feel guilty one bit. Okay, maybe a tad because this is your sacred podcast time. I'm about to make your life 10 times easier and way more delicious with 2 hacks I use all the time. I'm actually using them both right now, actually. One is on my finger, and the other is about to go in my belly. I wear a self-quantification ring that helps me track things that are really important for keeping me running superhuman style. Things like sleep, heart rate variability, respiration for relaxing during stressful events like AT&T keeping me on hold for 20 minutes, and even distance for my triathlete beach runs. It's called the Aura Ring, and the best part about it is I don't have to wear toxic, brain-interrupting Bluetooth on me all day like most self-tracking wearables. Oh no. All the technology is packed into one little ring, and it's able to monitor all these cool stats without full-time Bluetooth. Best part is, I wake up, turn Bluetooth on for 5 minutes, and it downloads it to an app on my phone, and I go about my day not having to worry about Bluetooth all over me. One of the great perks about the ring is it's actually cool. It looks good. You know, making a scene in 2017, if you know what I mean. Hope you laughed at that. You can get the free shipping right now on one of these bad boys by going to Aura, OURA.com, picking out your perfect ring, which comes in pure white, stealth black, or the oh so manly matte black. At checkout, type in coupon code Accurso. That's like my last name, Accurso, ACCURSO, and receive free shipping for a limited time. Now, do you want to know what's in my other hand? The other hack I'm doing is I'm sipping a superhuman protein shake that I've upgraded with proteolytic enzymes called Masszymes. If you want the secret to getting every last drop of nutrients into those shredded muscles, then you need to be taking this stuff. It breaks down my protein shake beforehand and allows my body to triple the results I get from a workout. You can get 10% off at biooptimizers.com. That's BIOPTIMIZERS, biooptimizers.com. And you can type in superhuman10 at checkout. So biooptimizers.com, superhuman10 at checkout for 10% off of any and all of their amazing products. Hey, thanks for letting me interrupt the episode. Now back to the show. Along the lines of thinking outside of the box, Matt, you obviously were able to step out of that. I don't want to say it's because it can be a good thing. You know, creating success is a wonderful thing. You know, utilizing success is a wonderful thing. And obviously it got you to where you are. It got you to create beautiful and what you're doing now. So let's get into that, because this is probably I'm most excited about talking about this with you. But talk about beautiful, what you guys are creating, what's the mission of the business, et cetera. Or the nonprofit, I should say. The nonprofit.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is? I hate the word nonprofit because at the end of the day, I'm running a business.
Yeah, you are.
Yep. What we're doing with our working capital is different. But at the end of the day, there's lawyers, there's attorneys, there's CPAs, there's employees. All of that stuff is exactly the same. So that's just my soapbox for a second. But to get into what you're saying, I created the Beautiful Foundation with two incredible women. Rihanna Capri and Nikki Lee Santos are the owners of 901 Salon in Los Angeles. They have a couple locations. Their primary location is on Melrose Place, kind of in the heart of it all. In regards to salons and stylists and kind of in their world, they're at the very top of the food chain. And Rihanna and I have been friends since high school, long time.
Yeah, wow.
And we were, which, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have friendships that last that long, but like we've been really close friends. And, you know, I think in everything that we've done up until the Beautiful Foundation, we've always supported one another. But, you know, we've always been lucky enough to kind of go on vacations together and spend time together. And her business partner, I kind of feel the same way about Nikki. We haven't known each other as long, but just incredibly connected. And over the past maybe like 3 years or so, they'd always supported my other foundations and other endeavors and events. And I tried to do the same. But we had always had this idea of like, how could we take their platform and really kind of add my expertise of kind of that nonprofit giving back and creating opportunities for other people? How can we put those two worlds together and really take advantage of all the influence that they have and all the connections and just all the people that they know and the people that they already impact? And so how can we create something that can kind of merge all those worlds? And so, you know, it was a thing where it was a couple of dinners, maybe a vacation, and you talk about it, you get all excited, and then, you know, life kind of gets in the way, and then you kind of maybe circle back to it. And that's exactly kind of like what I was doing. We had kind of circled back at the end of 2017 and kind of moving into the new year. I was like, hey, if there was ever a time to kind of do this, would you be open to it? And kind of went back and forth, and it was like that conversation. Okay, like, yeah, like I'd love to, but like, what are we going to do? And for me, kind of a sidebar topic, I'm not a big sleeper. I kind of have always just not slept real well, and it doesn't really hinder me. It's just always been something I need like maybe 4 or 5 hours, and I'm usually pretty good. And
You guys fascinate. I have a few friends like you, man, that literally don't sleep. I'm like, how do you not? But yeah, you're exactly right. It doesn't impact them in the least bit. They just,
yeah, no, it's just, if I can get 4 hours, I'm usually good.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those nights, and I literally had woke up and I was like, I'm kind of wide awake. And I started like reading this book, and like, I couldn't get into it. It was like you ever get those books where you're like, I'm like 2 chapters in, and like, everybody tells me it's good, so I want to keep reading. But yeah, so I was having like one of those moments. And then I was like, holy crap. I don't know, whatever it did jogged my memory. And I was like, I know exactly what we're going to do for a foundation. And I was kind of almost upset at myself, because I was like, this has been right in front of me the whole time. I can't believe that I just thought of this. And so the concept for the Beautiful Foundation is there's layers to it, but the primary idea was, spending so much time in the hospitals and dealing with young children, dealing with women and men alike. Cancer is affecting all of us.
Yeah.
And, it's 2018, and there's a lot of amazing organizations out there creating awareness. That's great. There's a lot of fantastic, organizations out there, funding research and doing things like that. But I just didn't want to go and create a foundation about, we're going to do a 5K, and we're going to walk around and raise money, and we're going to give it to somebody or whatever. I just was like, I've always been like, okay, that's been done. Like that, you don't do the same gag twice, right? If somebody's done it, then you go do the next one. And so for me, I really wanted the organization to not be about awareness. I wanted it to be about action. And I wanted to create something that would be tangible, not only for the end user, for the people that we're trying to help, but how can we create something tangible for the people that want to volunteer, the people that want to be involved, the people that want to do something impactful? And how can you create something? How can you create an organization that is going to allow people to do that on a nominal scale, which any giving is never nominal, but even on a small scale, maybe it's just somebody sharing it, whether it's Instagram or whatever, or all the way up to somebody that's going to go, hey, I want to create our own event. And so I woke up, like I said, middle of the night. I think it was like maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I wrote the entire business model for the foundation. Wow. And I emailed it to Nikki and Rihanna. I emailed it to them at like 5:30 in the morning. And before 7 o'clock, I had a response from both of them going, yes, absolutely. How do we start? Can we start yesterday? And that's literally what set this whole thing off. So the Beautiful Foundation is really a foundation dedicated to women. I've got an incredible mother, incredible stepmom. I've got 2 sisters. Women have been a huge part of my life, growing up. And my sister is, I have a biological sister and I have an adopted sister. And both of them are like the most incredible, special people to me ever. And, one of them is a mother now herself. My other sister just started at San Diego State. So there's a wide gap, age gap. And I just look at them and I would do anything for them. And I think there's a lot of men out there that feel that same way, whether it's for their wife or for a significant other or, a mom, a sister, whatever it may be. And so taking that idea and then looking at my friends, Rihanna and Nikki, that have created this incredible brand with 901 Salon, and then also their own individual brands of who they are as people. And then all the other startups and other brands that they have going on are incredible. And so I really wanted to take all those worlds and mold them together. And so in thinking about that, we created the Beautiful Foundation. And the Beautiful Foundation is really dedicated to women, really dealing with cancer, coming out of cancer, and just trying to get back to the best versions of themselves. And I've always, this is way off topic, but I've always been a Deion Sanders fan. And he always said, he always would say, look good, feel good, right?
Yeah. Yes, I remember.
And I always thought about that, and I went like, yeah, man, like when I was growing up playing basketball, like if I had a new pair of shoes, like I swear I always played better. Yeah. So it was that.
I had didn't he have a shoe? He had a shoe, right?
Oh yeah. He had everything, right? And so I always was like,
the same age, man. So I'm totally.
Oh yeah, we're the same age. I mean, I look at all those guys, right? So I always thought about that, right? And I don't know how I drew the parallel, but I always looked at that and I went, whether it was my sister or my mom, and then obviously being connected to Nikki and Rihanna, like when a woman's able to go and get a haircut or to get a blowout or to get her, extensions or color or whatever it may be. In my conversations with Nikki and Rihanna, the kind of the moments they're able to create for women to feel great about themselves. And look, we all understand the importance of being a good person and being beautiful inside. But let's be honest, we live in a world that is inundated with all kinds of things, good and bad, in regards to how you look. Yeah. And to dive even further into that, the cancer space is devastating, right? It's something that so many of us are dealing with, whether directly or indirectly. But outside of the actual cancer, there's so many other things that come along with a cancer diagnosis. And one of those things is, especially for women, is them losing their hair. Yeah. And understanding how impactful that is and how devastating that is for women. And so being in that cancer space for such a long time, I always looked at it and went, wow, there's not really a brand. There's not really a nonprofit. There's not really an organization serving those needs and really hitting it. Look, there's a lot of organizations out there doing great things, but nobody that's really hitting a home run. Yeah. And I've always looked at Nikki and Rihanna, always looked up to them. They're incredible business people. And I went, man, your guys' influence is so crazy. If we could create a way to go, look, here's all of your brands and all the things that you do so well. And if we could add a philanthropic arm to that, I think we could make a massive impact. And so that's exactly what Beautiful Foundation is. And so the idea with the foundation is really to create resources for women to turn to, and specifically in that beauty industry. So whether it's hair or makeup or esthetician or massage therapist, really being able to create kind of something that's twofold. And that's a place that a woman that's dealing with cancer, coming out of cancer, being a primary caretaker for somebody that they can turn to and find resources. And then on the other side of that coin, I really wanted it to be a place that people in the beauty industry, whether you're a salon owner, whether you're a stylist, an esthetician, a massage therapist, whatever you may be, and you want to feel like you want to add a give back component to your business, I wanted to create an organization that would give those people that platform, because not everybody's going to be able to go out there and create their own foundation. Yeah. But everybody wants to help and everybody wants to give back, because at some point in everybody's life, somebody else has helped them. And then I think even further is, look, people give because they want to feel good about themselves. When they lay their head, down on the pillow at night, they want to feel like, hey, I did something for somebody else. Yeah. And so if I can kind of bundle all those things together and create something, I think we could really do something special. And so the Beautiful Foundation has a couple different programs and a couple different things that we do. The first and foremost is the availability for any cancer patient, any cancer survivor, caretaker can log on, create their own profile, and instantly gain free access to all of our resources. And obviously, as the foundation grows, so too will the resources. But really being able to go, hey, I know I can turn to the Beautiful Foundation. I can log in. I can create my profile. I can see those resources. And look, we don't pretend to have all the answers, but as we grow, we can, certainly help push people in the right directions if we don't have the answers for them. And then to serve that purpose, we've really created a way for anybody in the beauty industry can log on to the Beautiful Foundation, do the same, create their own profile, but then sign up to donate their services. So maybe that's one haircut a year. Maybe that's 100 haircuts a year. Maybe that's a massage therapist for, whatever it may be. People can go there, can donate their services and be connected to people in their community, because although the Beautiful Foundation is a global organization, we're, doing things all across the country. Everything starts in your neighborhood. Everything starts in your community, because that's where you live and that's what you're affected by. And so we're really dedicated to creating that community wherever you may be. So we've got our kind of initial program is called the Beautiful Day program. And we had our very first Beautiful Day at the 901 Salon in Los Angeles on August 5th. Oh, cool. And what we were able to do is kind of set a flat fee for any haircut on that day. So any haircut on that day, I believe, was $175, $150. And that money was donated directly to the Beautiful Foundation. Wow. And then on top of that, any cancer survivor, any cancer patient that needed hair services on that day could come to the salon and would be, given free services. So free haircuts.
Wow.
We ended up having a massage therapist there. I believe we had a makeup person there. I think we even had an esthetician. I could be wrong, but we were able to create this day. It was on a Sunday, and the turnout was incredible. We had so many people donate their time
because they're like at the top. I mean, there's coming into this place. I mean, for them to do that is a huge deal. Wow.
Oh, huge deal. And so, obviously Nikki and Rihanna were really instrumental into that. And then 2 or 3 of the other people that really helped with the foundation, Jessica and Jill and Morgan, really instrumental in that day. And then just the entire salon really rallied and said, hey, like, we get it. We've lived it in some capacity. Like, we want to volunteer our day. And so we were able to do that. And I think we had something like 22 or 23 cancer patients or cancer survivors come in and get donated services, which is incredible. And to be able to provide that was so special.
Yeah. Wow. It blows my mind. I will say, anybody out there that's listening, go on Matt's Instagram. Like, there's some stories. By the way, your Instagram is amazing. It's so
thank you.
Because it's so meaningful, like, and it's so refreshing to see it. But I'll tell you, like, looking at some of the people that you've worked with and seeing the smiles in their faces and seeing how much it's changing their life. I mean, truly impacting people at a heart level. It's amazing.
Yeah. And even if it's 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like, that's what I try to, like, I think there's a lot of people that I've connected with or reach out and go, oh, we want to do something. And they want to, like, jump into this giant idea of what they want to do. And I kind of go, okay, that's great. But, like, let's create realistic expectations in regards to helping people. And even if it's for 5 minutes, like, that changed somebody's life for 5 minutes. And doing that event, obviously, I'm not cutting anybody's hair. Nobody would let me ever do that. But being able to be at that event and kind of I was a little bit of a fly on the wall. And for me, going back to the fact that I have spent a lot of time in the cancer space, I understand how difficult it is. When you're a cancer patient or survivor, everybody needs help. Everybody usually wants help, but actually asking for it and engaging and showing up and feeling that support, a lot of people can't do it.
Yeah.
They're embarrassed. They don't want the attention. They need the help. They want the help, but actually engaging and taking it is really, really difficult. And so in building the model for the foundation, and as we grow, there's always, there's always hurdles, there's always pivots, always things that you can do better. And I think being a fly on the wall in that environment, so much of the feedback was from the cancer patients and survivors was the fact that, hey, I was so thankful to show up for this event. And I didn't have that fear in doing it because I knew it wasn't specifically for me. It was for our community.
Right.
And that was like a light bulb moment for me where I was like, oh, because we were trying out of the gate, really trying to connect individual people to stylists and stuff. And we were having success and things were going great. But I always kind of go, how do we do this bigger and better and improve? And so creating this beautiful day event is the perfect way to do it because you're not supporting one specific person. You're supporting a whole bunch of people. You're supporting that community. And so having those people engage and show up and feel comfortable is half the battle. And so we were able to do that. And so now in the next, 2 weeks, we're actually unrolling on the Beautiful Foundation through all our social media, the availability for any salon in the country can create their own beautiful day event.
Wow.
And so anyone, anywhere can go, hey, we want to work with the Beautiful Foundation. We want to help our cancer community. We want to create a difference. So we're in the very, very final stages of being able to have people log on to the Beautiful Foundation, sign up to create their own beautiful day event. We kind of are going to hold that event on the first Sunday of August every year. So people can join us on that date, or they can actually go out and create their own date. So whatever date worked for them would be more than adequate. So we're really excited about that.
If somebody wanted to join you guys in that, or if somebody wanted to learn about it, where do they go?
The best thing is just to go to thebeautifulfoundation.com.
Okay.
You can Google us. It will pop up there. Obviously, social media, it's Beautiful Foundation kind of across the channel on all our socials. So you can do that. And I encourage people to do that. And then, creating the Beautiful Day event, you sign up. And then essentially what you get from us is you get kind of an event in a box. We're sending out basically a starter kit to go out there and create your own day. So there's information, there's balloons, there's just everything to kind of help you make your day special. And so we're really excited about that. Like I said, I think we're launching that in the next 2 weeks. We're kind of just working through some of the final kinks, but
Man,
it's going to be so special because it's really going to be, our whole idea is like, how can we have 1,000 of these a year all across the country? Because then you can really start making impact on a big level.
Wow. And I have no doubt, man, this is going to be such a massive swell, like going right back to surfing again. It's like this thing this thing's going to build because, again, it's so right. It's so founded in the right intentions and the right way of doing things. So for anybody out there listening, look up the Beautiful Foundation, and it's BEYOU.
TIFUL.
Beautiful. Yeah. And one of the last things, Matt, you help people start nonprofits. Like, is this something you coach people on?
Yeah. So I've kind of ended up in this space of, I still like to think of myself as young, even though I'm 37, but,
you are, dude. Brother, we're young.
I've ended up in this space of, in the nonprofit space. And like you said, when we first started this, a lot of people that are doing nonprofit work are kind of doing it as a second career or doing it after retirement. And I was able to kind of get involved and become engaged and kind of gain some knowledge at an earlier age. And so I think our generation and the generations coming up, I think we understand the importance of giving back. And I think we understand it not only from like a heartfelt standpoint, but also from like a business standpoint. I think if any business, regardless of the demographic, regardless of the industry, if you don't have some sort of give back component or some way of marketing to the people that you're trying to sell your product to, or the people that you're trying to engage, if you're not showing how you're giving back to your community, you're missing a huge part of your business model. Yeah. And so being in that space and having that knowledge and being younger, I've been able to help a handful of people now, more than a handful of people now, really start to engage in what they want to do and how they want to give back. Obviously, I'm connected with a lot of different nonprofits, and so I can help direct people kind of in that space and going, okay, here's some people that are doing some great things, but then also taking some of these business owners that are going, hey, I want to create my own nonprofit for my own business model, for my own legacy, and being able to create ways to give back. So I've got, honestly, and that's kind of how Beautiful Foundation came into be. It was, Nikki and Rihanna are some of my closest friends, but they had always gone like, hey, we want to give back. How do we do this? And how do we create something that's ours? And I think that's a space that I've kind of stumbled into, but now looking at it and being kind of in that space for a while, there's so many opportunities. So I literally, after I hang up with this, I've got a meeting with a young man. I call him a kid, but he's, a couple of years younger than me. And he's a fantastic physical trainer, does a bunch of stuff at the local high schools and colleges. And so I'm helping him establish his foundation and a scholarship fund.
Cool.
And so I've got that going on. And then I've got, I'm working with my buddy, Mikey Taylor. Mikey Taylor's a former professional skater and now has a great thing, Commune Capital, which kind of helping athletes invest their money and setting themselves up for financial freedom after, being an athlete. And we're adding going to be hopefully adding a nonprofit component to his business model. And so I'm helping him through that. And then I've got, some early conversations with a good friend of mine, Nolan, I've mentored, since we were little kids. And he kind of he's one of the guys that kind of mentors me now a little bit. He's in the music space. And so we're having some early conversations about setting up a nonprofit for a couple of his artists. And, so I've kind of ended in that space. And then I've got a new concept that I'm kind of actually signing leases hopefully today on some new office space for a thing called Shop 143. And that's my latest kind of nonprofit endeavor. And it's very long story short, it's a curated online thrift store curated by me. And all of my friends that I've ended up in this space, been so fortunate to just be connected with so many incredibly successful and inspirational people. So whether it's athletes or celebrities or bloggers and influencers, all those people want to do good, but like we going back earlier, not everybody has the time to create an event or show up to an event. And so with the decrease of kind of print marketing, a lot of that marketing dollars for any product has kind of gone into product placement and giving product to influencers and people that, have a following. And so for a lot of these people, it's like Christmas for them every day. They're getting products, they're getting things to share. And a lot of the time, whether they use those things or they like those things or they promote those things, those things end up in a room, they end up in a garage, they end up, being thrown away. And so Shop 143 is a way for those people to donate those items to us. And we sell them online in a kind of an online, eBay, setup. So there's an auction component to it. And then 50% of everything that we sell goes to the charity of that influencer's choice. And so it's a way for those people to really create impact, influence their community, and also do a lot of good. And so we're in the kind of very final stages of solidifying that website and doing all that stuff. So that's a whole nother endeavor.
Wow. I feel like we could have a whole show on just what you talked about at the end. Because it's so, also finding mentor, like, putting yourself around people who are going to build you up and who are going to help you think bigger.
You are who you hang out
with. You exactly.
You are. My dad used to tell me that all the time. And he would kind of tell me when I'd be maybe hanging out with a knucklehead or somebody I shouldn't be, like, you are who you hang out with. And now looking at it as an adult, like, you are who you surround yourself with. You are. The people that you spend time with, you're a reflection of that. And so
I used to hear something my mom, it was a mantra of hers, was show me your 3 friends and I'll show you where you'll be in 3 years. And it's so true, because I mean, both of us can have stories of guys we were friends with in high school that, ended up going down a wrong road. And if we would have stayed on that road, we'd be there too, and it's like,
100%.
It's tough. It's tough sometimes though, because you have to, it's like, it's not a mean thing. It's actually a very loving thing when you can actually go to somebody and say, hey, look, you're headed down this path and I see where it's going and I don't want to go down that path. And so I would love for you to shift paths, but if you're not, then I need to go this way. You need to go that way, and it gets to be this weird thing, even though, I mean, I understand it can be awkward if you're shifting things in your life and you have to communicate with a person that way, but there's a way to do it. Right.
Oh, for sure. And I think the other thing too is I talk about this with Rihanna all the time because we're such dear friends and we kind of bounce ideas and things off each other all the time. And, we've always said this, like, people vibrate at different levels, and high vibration isn't necessarily good and low vibration isn't necessarily bad, but everybody's on these different paths and all these different wavelengths. But it's like, I feel like when you're vibrating at a certain level, you can see it in other people.
Yeah.
And you can feel it even in like initial conversations or that kind of gut reaction when you first meet somebody, you can tell. Yeah. And I think the more experiences that you have, you can see it. And it becomes like, I always kind of use that stupid analogy, but like, this is really dumb, but I love The Matrix, right? The Matrix when it came out was the best movie of all time.
Yes, it was.
The second and third one, I don't know, but the first one was incredible.
Yes, it was.
And when we talk about it all the time, I always, like, in my head, it pops into my head, and it's like when Keanu Reeves is like starting to understand his power, right? And he's fighting somebody, and then all of a sudden he's like fighting somebody with one arm, and everything is slowed down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an evolution in a lot of aspects of life is, how can you slow things down so that you can actually see it, you can, digest it, and then, make your moves or, create your opinions or, put yourselves in positions that are going to be favorable for yourself. And I think that's a product of experience, but it's also a product of being with like-minded people.
The next show is going to be Matt Coulter discusses how to slow things down like The Matrix. That's the next.
yeah,
right. Super entrepreneur. But you're right.
But I think
you're right.
Where I was going with that is the fact that you got to have mentors.
Yes, you do.
And you got to have mentors. Look, obviously, like, it's like if you want to be a doctor, right? You're going to find a mentor that's a doctor. But I also think it's so incredibly important to have mentors that are outside your space. Yes. Because they give you perspective that maybe you would never have.
Because that's what I was going to say too, is that I would say right now, I don't actually have any mentors that are doctors. All my mentors are literally in things that I probably would have had no concept or clue of 5 to 8 years ago. But in this season of my life, I'm finding, like, different passions coming out and things. And so I think, it's so healthy to have that mix so you can get, I call it my board. I have 5 or 6 people on my board, and actually one is a kid. I always have a kid on my board. I don't know if it's like kids will say things to you that are so simple yet rock your world. I think some of the most important lessons that I've ever had have been from children. So I always have a kid on my board. Yeah. So
it's one of those things. Yeah. I mean, I have I have a younger sister who's just starting college, and she says stuff to me, or like I see stuff through her, and I'm like, oh, damn, okay. And I think that's important because it is, I joke around about getting old, but age is irrelevant. Like, there's kids that are doing stuff that are 17 that I look at and I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen, So I always am just trying to surround myself with people that are outside of my sphere, outside of my box, right? That are just, okay, I have an athlete, I have a business person, I have a kid, I have, one of my closest friends who owns bars. He's, a restaurateur, and like, dude, some of the stuff that he says to me, I'm like, oh yeah, like I can apply that here. And so I think that's having a mentor. Like if you don't have maybe not only one, if you don't have multiple, like I just feel you're kind of missing the boat on that because
you really are.
To me, one of the most important things.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like that's something you're going to be back, Matt. We're going to call the show like Matt Squared.
Oh, I know. I'm so chatty Cathy. Like I'll just
but I love it, man, because that's what it's all about. It's all about, learning or sharing what we've learned, in the short 37 years we've been on the earth. I feel like we have so much more to learn, but even in that, there's not enough men and women getting out there and saying, hey, let me take you under my wing for a little bit. Like, let me just show you a few things that if you do this, you're going to really avoid, things like this or that.
Yeah. Just like turning around and throwing the rope back.
That's right.
To where I've gotten or where you've gotten, somebody helped you get there. You didn't get there by yourself.
That's right. That's right. Don't listen to Drake. Somebody's got to help you.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I'm a huge advocate of like, dude, like, put on your shoes and grab your lunch pail and go to work. Like that. I think that's what he's going for is there. Yes. But like, I kind of go, man, like if you have an opportunity to have people help you, it can make your journey so much easier, but you got to be willing to accept that help and you got to be willing to seek it out. That's right.
Brother, it's been such a pleasure I don't want to end the conversation. Like I'm just letting everybody out there know, I would keep going if for the fact that, Matt and I literally have, things ahead of us that we need to be doing appointments and things. But I will say that, Matt, it's been such a pleasure. Like the knowledge bombs that you just dropped are going to not only help me, but many, many others that are listening right now. I want to thank all of you out there for tuning in with us and making it a priority to grow, making it a priority to get out there and listen to conversations and wisdom that you could potentially use in your own life. And then please, most importantly, if you've learned something from Matt, share it with other people, because I'll tell you, that's why we're on this earth. We're here to love on each other. We're here to help each other and help the human race just excel together. All boats rise. So Matt, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say before we end the call?
No, I just am so thankful. I appreciate the time. And just like we said a couple times during the show, if you get an opportunity, please go to our website or even our social media just to get a snapshot of who we are and what we're doing. And then obviously if there's an opportunity to get involved, for us, the more the merrier and the more people we can help. So thanks again for having me. And, hopefully we'll have to do this again.
Oh, absolutely. And once again, where can they go again to learn more about you and the organization?
Best thing to do is just go to thebeautifulfoundation.com, and then you can find all of our social handles there and kind of find out, what we're up to and what's going on and maybe something in your local area. So
sounds good. Everybody out there, continue to be superhuman. We'll see you next time. Hey, World Changer. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Do you desire to gain an unfair competitive advantage in life? Do you want more energy, focus, and clarity to add more life to your years and years to your life? I can almost hear your answer coming through my headphones, a resounding yes. If that's the case, you can go to superhumanentrepreneur.com/hack in order to get your free high performance hack guide. That's www.superhumanentrepreneur.com/hack. My mission is to help activate high performance among 10 million entrepreneurs and their families within the next 10 years. If you're loving the content you're hearing, you can partner with me on this mission by simply leaving a review on iTunes. If you do this now, I'd very much appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to giving you even more high performance value next time.